Hey, what's up there, YouTubers? It's me again, Brian, aka Gamer 55551, and I am back with a My 2 Cent video for this week, for the week of May the 4th to May 10th, 2025. Hopefully you guys had a good May the 4th, whether it's doing anything Star Wars related or anything like that. And obviously, we are 1 month away from the release of the Nintendo Switch 2. Hopefully those who were able to pre-order were successful in pre-ordering one, to be exact. I understand there are those who might want to take their chance on launch day to see if they could pick one up. So hopefully if that's your plan, best of luck for you guys out there who are planning to do that, if they're planning to get a Nintendo Switch 2 and all. So next month, it's going to be the big one to see how well the Switch 2 does and everything. But anyway, we got 4 stories to cover this week, excuse me, in which we have someone released a video in terms of a Switch 2 teardown of what's inside the system and everything like that. Nintendo has released some information on their financial report, which is basically their last one before the Nintendo Switch 2 comes out. Nintendo sues the excuse me, accessory manufacturer Genki over the Switch 2 in terms of it being, or the information of it being released early. And the announcement of Gears of War Reloaded basically is official, and it's coming to multiple platforms and everything like that. If you're interested in where I got the source of information, links will be in the description of this video, assuming you watch this either on YouTube or Patreon. And of course, timestamps will also be in the description of this video as well, if there are certain parts you wish to skip to and everything. But before we get started, I like to do what I like to call the quick My 2 Cents, stories that kind of caught my attention, but I'm not going to go into a huge amount of details at all. The first one has to do with, now we are learning about the Switch 2 version of Star Wars Outlaw. Obviously, we've seen some clips here and there. There are reports about it using ray tracing and everything like that. But we also now have been officially confirmed that the Switch 2 version of Star Wars Outlaw will be using what many are viewing as the controversial game key card. Now, I'm aware not everybody will be happy with this. Some folks are not pleased with this idea and everything like that. And I get the criticism and everything. I'm not saying there isn't legitimate criticism level towards it though, but unfortunately it is what it is, and that is an option you're going to have to weigh if you are deciding, should you think about getting the Switch 2 version of Star Wars Outlaws or any other game that uses the game key cards for the Switch 2 and all. We also learned that apparently Nintendo revealed that they started development on the Switch 2 all the way back to 2019 and all. And to some degree, I'm not entirely surprised, because usually once they release a system, they begin work on the next system and everything like that. And I'm pretty sure they were, and it wouldn't surprise me if they were looking at figuring what can they do to improve upon with their next system and all. So it's kind of interesting to see that development of this started in 2019 and everything. And obviously during that cycle, they didn't release, like a Switch Pro. I mean, we did get some mid-refresh, like a different Tegra X1 chip in the Switch 2 to, the Switch OLED and the Switch Lite and everything, but not a full, next-gen refresh on the scale of what we saw with, the PS5 with the PS5 Pro, or the PS4 with the PS4 Pro, or anything like that. So still kind of interesting indeed on that. We also learned that those who are thinking of picking up the camera for the Switch 2 and all, and using the game chat or anything like that, you may want to keep in mind that, at least according to what Nintendo is saying, they may record video and audio from game chat sessions on Switch 2. Now, some are going to argue that this may be to hunt down or crack down on, those who may use inappropriate words, to basically maybe doing, possibly any kind of bullying or anything like that. And while that may be true on some extent, there are those who might argue that this could be sort of like them invading their privacy and all. So I'm mixed on this to some extent, though. So we'll see how this all plays out, and whether or not this turns some folks away of getting that camera or not, or anything like that. We also learned that Cyberpunk 2077, the developers are basically telling studios to not underestimate like the physical version. And CD Projekt Red, which is one of the few third-party developer studios I do have a lot of respect for, are one of the few that are willing to fit the entire game into the Switch game cartridge, not go the game key card route that we've seen a lot of third-party developers for the Nintendo Switch 2 have done lately, though. And their view is that a lot of Nintendo fans do like to get, like the physical version of the game, not, like a code with a piece of paper with an empty box and everything, and like that. And yeah, I don't disagree with what they're saying on that. I think that is true. A lot of us would like to get the full game into basically, into the actual Switch cartridge, not this game key card approach. Although I will say, when compared to the empty paper, a paper in an empty box approach that we've seen some developers have pulled off during the Switch 1, and we're seeing some with the Switch 2, I would say the game key cards is the lesser of the two evils. However, that's nowhere compared to what CD Projekt Red is doing with the Switch 2 version of Cyberpunk 2077. I will say they definitely are setting a good example in terms of bringing that game over to the Switch 2 and all. And it does put a lot of folks who use the game key cards, though, to shame to a certain extent. We also learned that the Final Fantasy VII creator, or the creator of the remake version, did basically a creator's voice video recently, though, and one of the things that came out of it was a statement that seemed to indicate that there are plans to bring Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and the third part of the Final Fantasy VII Remake trilogy to the Switch 2 and all. Now, granted, nothing has been confirmed at this time, to be exact, but given Square Enix new approach now trying to bring their games to multiple platforms as much as possible, supposedly this was in response to how Final Fantasy VII Rebirth was released on the PS5 as an exclusive or timed exclusive, depending on how you want to look at it, though, and did not perform as well as Square Enix wanted, though. They seem to have changed some of their approach and everything like that. So it's certainly not out of the realm of possibility that Rebirth and the third part in the Final Fantasy VII Remake could make its way over to the Switch 2 and everything. I'm sure Square Enix will be taking a look at the sales numbers in terms of how the Final Fantasy VII Remake Integrate does on the Switch 2. And if they could pull it off, that would be great. It'll be interesting to see if they are the ones, if it does happen, it'll be interesting if they're the ones developing it, or they have like a port house or another studio handle it and everything. So it does give the impression that they are implying that Rebirth and Part 3 will make its way to Switch 2. But again, nothing has been confirmed at this time. We also learned that the FTC has lost its appeal in terms of Microsoft acquiring Activision and Blizzard. Look, I'm still mixed on this even till this day and everything like that. But at this point, it's over, it's done, it's time to really kind of move on at this point, to be exact, though. I will admit, on one hand, I think it's good that it's no longer that Bobby Kotick is involved with Activision Blizzard anymore, but at the same time, it does raise questions about a lot of these tech companies and all gobbling up these studios and everything like that, so it's still a mixed bag to a certain degree. But at the same time, I do think it's time that to close this chapter once and for all, regardless of what your view on whether you thought it was right for Microsoft to buy Activision Blizzard or not and all. We also learned that basically a new trailer for the Grand Theft Auto 6 was released this week, though, and has so far gotten about almost nearly 500 million views. To be exact, though. I will say, having seen the trailer myself, it does look impressive. Don't get me wrong. I do think it is definitely it does look impressive, but I can't help but feel like they're not really showing any gameplay, and that's the part that kind of worries me a little bit, to be exact, though. Now, they're claiming that there's some snippets of gameplay in the latest trailer, but I'm not sure and all. Now, granted, the game won't be out till next year, so a lot of things could happen. Maybe at some point they will actually show an actual gameplay footage and everything. I would like to see some actual gameplay footage. I know this might be I know some may or may not agree with me on this. It's one of the reasons why I do have some respect for Nintendo, because when they do their directs, and even when they show off their games, they're actually showing off some actual gameplay footage of the games that they are working on and all. Even if it's not the type of game that appeals to you, you at least know what you're getting from it though. And I'm a little disappointed we have yet to see that from Rockstar with GTA 6. Again, perhaps maybe we'll see another trailer at some point, and maybe they'll show off some actual gameplay though, so that may happen though. But for right now, either way, the trailer seems to be ranking up a lot of views on YouTube and everything. And last but not least, there is a report coming out that due to the tariffs that President Trump is pushing and everything like that, we could see a rise in the increase of, a lot of these consoles. It could increase up to like 69% though. So yeah, if unless something is done soon, these tariffs could really make things a lot more expensive than they are right now and everything like that. And in the movie and TV show part of the Quick My 2 Cent, we are learning that Harrison Ford is still down with doing more of the spin-off of the Yellowstone series, with like the 1923 and all that he's been in lately though. So I mean, that's kind of impressive for someone who's 80 years old. He's still got it after all these years. So obviously he's down for more with that and all. We also learned that we saw a new trailer for the second season for the upcoming Peacemaker. I am kind of curious to see how this one is going to play out, because the first season of Peacemaker did take place in the DC cinematic universe that was started first with the Zack Snyder's Superman movie, and now with James Gunn in charge. I'm curious to see how this is going to play out with season 2 for Peacemaker. From what has been told so far, it does seem to indicate that season 1 is still canon, minus the Justice League making an appearance in the end of season 1 of Peacemaker and all. So it's going to be interesting to see how this is all going to play out and everything. We also learned that the director of Thunderbolt, Jake Schreier, if I'm saying his name correctly, has been eyed to basically do the upcoming, possibly the upcoming X-Men movie that is in development at Marvel Studios. It seems as though that a lot of folks at Marvel Studio and Disney must have been really happy with what they have seen so far with Thunderbolt, which seems to be, at last time I checked, it sounds like it's doing very well at the box office, to be exact. So assuming he signs up on it, it will be very interesting to see his take on the X-Men franchise and everything. We also learned that we saw that there's been a bit of a teaser, and now we know the next title for the upcoming Godzilla X Kong movie, which is titled Godzilla X Kong Supernova. I am looking forward to this one. I did enjoy Godzilla X Kong: The New Empire, but I felt like that was more of a Kong movie rather than the actual tag team that I think a lot of people would like to see Godzilla and King Kong in. And I also would still want to see them do their own solo outing, to be exact. But in either case, I'm looking forward to the next entry in the Godzilla X Kong, and of course the second season of Monarch when that does eventually happen and all. And last but not least, apparently it seems that the Trump administration had to clarify some comments they made in regards of tariffs they now want to put on movies and everything like that. And well, let's just say the whole tariff thing is not sitting well with everybody out there. I personally think the tariffs are a big mistake to begin with in the first place and all. Okay, with the Quick My 2 Cent part now done, along with the movie and TV show part of the Quick My 2 Cent, we'll get started with our first story, and this one has to do with the surprise announcement of what essentially looks like a remaster or remake of the first Gears of War game under the title Gears of War Reloaded. Now, one of the things that a lot of people are looking at with Microsoft, since basically they announced that they were bringing some games over to other systems, was after acquiring Activision Blizzard, would we start seeing like first party games, some of the stuff that they have brought over. Now we did see some with games like Hi-Fi Rush, Pendament, Sea of Thieves have sort of made their way over, but there were many who was wondering is, would there have been a red line in terms of what games would and would not make their way over? And there were rumors at one point seemed to indicate that. However, since then Microsoft has supposedly shot that rumor down and all. And recently, though, we saw that Forza Horizon 5 was basically made its way over to the PS5 and all. And there are reports saying that game seems to be doing very well on the PS5. Well, now another game has seemed to have made its way over, and this one is now under the title Gears of War Reloaded, which, as I mentioned earlier, it sounds like this is going to be a remaster/remake of the first Gears of War game. Now, according to Xbox, and this is from their website though, they do point out that the game is basically, it's the original Gears of War returned, faithfully remastered, and narratively optimized for more platforms than ever before as Gears of War Reloaded. Gears of War Reload launches August 26, 2025 for $39.99 or $40 on Xbox Series X and X, Xbox PC, Xbox Cloud, Gaming, PS5 and Steam, and arrives day one on Game Pass Ultimate or PC Game Pass. They point out, play it on Xbox Series X and X, Xbox PC, and Xbox Cloud Gaming with Xbox Play Anywhere. They point out the game will support cross-play and cross-progression across all platforms. They also point out that Xbox fans who own the digital version of Gears of War Ultimate Edition receives a free upgrade to Gears of War Reloaded. They do point out that in terms of what they can get in terms of every platform though, and I'm going to be very curious to see how this, if they do this with the Xbox Series S as well, is although I do expect there might be some changes here and there. They point out that it will get 4K resolution, 60 FPS in campaign, 120 FPS in multiplayer, high dynamic range HDR, Dolby Vision and 7.1.4 Dolby ATmos, 7.1.4 3D Sparta audio, variable refresh rate (VRR), 4K access and remastered textures, enhanced post-processing visuals effect, improved shadows and reflection, super resolution with improving anti-aliasing, and zero loading screens during campaign. They also point out basically the game was development in partnership with the Coalition, in partnership with Sumo Digit and Disbelief. They do point out for Xbox fans who will get a free upgrade who purchase the digital version of Gears of War Ultimate Edition. They excuse me. They do point out that you have to have purchased the digital version of Gears of War Ultimate Edition prior to on May 5th, 2025 at around, let's see, 31, 42, 53, around like 4 o'clock or something, at least that's what they're saying. A code for Gears of War Reloaded will be delivered prior to launch of the game via a direct message to eligible Xbox accounts. So it's kind of interesting that they are doing sort of a remaster of the first Gears of War, but it is also very interesting to see it make its jump to the PS5. And since that game is coming into the PS5, I think a lot of people are realizing that it's only a matter of time before we start seeing something like, say, Halo start making its way over. And there are rumors about supposedly the Halo Master Chief Collection, or at least in some form or capacity, coming to the Switch 2 and all. So that would be something once we start seeing something like Halo make its way over to other platforms, either on the Switch 2 or the PS5, to be exact though. So this is very interesting indeed. And while the strategy is certainly controversial to some folks out there, and not everyone seems to be a big fan of this approach, it doesn't seem to be phasing Microsoft so far. It seems to be they're continuing down this approach. And with reports of Forza Horizon 5 doing very well on the PS5 and all, obviously they're going to continue taking this multi-platform approach going forward and everything like that. One other thing about Gears of War Reload is that as of this recording, there has been no word on whether or not this will be coming to the Nintendo Switch 2, so it sort of remains to be seen if that will be the case. However, despite that said, given Microsoft's multi-platform approach, along with them coming out talking about how they want to fully support the Nintendo Switch 2, I would say there is a chance we could see this game make its way over to the Switch 2. I'm not saying it's 100% guaranteed and we don't know if it will happen, but I wouldn't rule out the possibility that Gears of War Reloaded could make its way over to the Nintendo Switch 2. So overall, obviously Gears of War fans are probably happy to see this game basically see what essentially is a remaster or remake of the first Gears of War game. It's pretty clear it's coming to the PS5 and other platforms, and some folks some might be pleased with that, others may not, but given how well Forza Horizon 5 is doing on PS5, it'll be interesting to see how well Gears of War Reloaded does on the PS5 as well. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll get to part 2, and this one has to do with a lawsuit that Nintendo has filed against the Genki, if I'm saying the name correctly, accessory company. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 2 of my 2 cent video, and for this one, we're going to be taking a look at a lawsuit that Nintendo seemed to have filed against the supposedly accessory manufacturer Genki, if I'm saying the name correctly and all. Now, Nintendo is sort of no stranger when it comes to these kinds of lawsuits and all. They are basically well known to be extremely protective of their IPs. Sometimes there are situations I think Nintendo can be the right, but there are times I will admit that Nintendo can go a bit overboard with a lot of their lawsuits as well. So yes, there are some situations I agree with, some I disagree, and then there are some that are confusing, like them going after Pal World, which they sort of like waited like almost like a year before going after the developers of that game and everything. Well, now it seems as though last week they decided to basically go after the Genki manufacturing company, and this week though Genki has kind of responded to this though. So in terms of the lawsuit, Nintendo is basically making the claim in the court documents that Genki infringed on its trademark after it demoted and promoted unauthorized proprietary mock-ups and renders of the Nintendo Switch 2 and accessories. This Nintendo claim was designed to capitalize on and appropriate the public anticipation of Nintendo's next generation console. Now, in response to this, the accessory manufacturer Genki did respond to this lawsuit, and they posted this on X, formerly known as Twitter. This is what they had to say. Quote, "You may have seen that Nintendo recently filed a lawsuit against us. We're taking it seriously and working with legal counsels to respond thoroughly. What we can say is this. Genki has always been an independent company focusing on building innovation gaming accessories for the community we love. We're proud of the work we've done, and we stand by the quality and originality of our products. While we can't communicate in details, we're continuing to prepare to fulfill orders and showcase our newest products at PAX East this week. We're grateful for the overwhelming support we've received so far. We'll share more when we can, but for now, we're staying focused on doing what we do best, building gears for gamers." Now, it's going to be interesting to see how this lawsuit exactly plays out. Obviously, Nintendo is not happy with this company because they, at least according to them, they're also making claims that they're using thumbnail images that mislead fans into thinking it was an official Nintendo broadcast. They, were basically supposedly leaking stuff that they should not have leaked and all. Now, whether this case has legs or not remains to be seen. It will be very interesting to see how this plays out. Given Nintendo's track records when it comes to these lawsuits and everything, they tend to have a history of going into Nintendo's favor. Although there have been times they have settled certain things out of courts and everything. like that before though. So I think one example was there was a lawsuit filed by a former employee at Nintendo claiming that they were dismissed in supposedly their claim is retaliation of asking a question in regards of unionization. Nintendo did try to counter that by making the claim that this employee violated certain things in that, but eventually this was supposedly settled out of court, and Nintendo had to put up a sign, post up, let employees know they have the right to unionize and everything like that. So it will be very interesting to see how this lawsuit does play out. I do think odds do favor Nintendo, although I'm not a legal expert, but something could happen that could change all that, and we could see a scenario where the manufacturer Genki does come out as the winner out of this lawsuit. So time will ultimately tell to see how this plays out. But overall, I would say, knowing Nintendo, they are extremely protective of their IPs. As I said before, sometimes I think they're in the right, sometimes I think they're in the wrong though. And while odds do favor Nintendo, given their history of using these lawsuits and everything like that, I wouldn't rule out the possibility that Genki, if assuming that's their name, does somehow come away victorious from this lawsuit. But we'll have to wait and see how this lawsuit plays out and all. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll get to part 3, and this one has to do with supposedly, Nintendo's financial report. Supposedly the last one before the Switch 2 comes out. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 3 of my Two Cent video, and for this one, we're going to be taking a look at Nintendo's financial report that Nintendo just recently released. And I will say that there are some interesting numbers that have come out of this, especially as this is going to be what many view as the last financial report for the Switch 1 as we prepare for the Switch 2, which will be out next month. So at least according to what Nintendo is saying, in terms of their financial report, it's regarding the Nintendo Switch. It has currently, as of March 31st, 2020, I believe it's March 31st, 2025. Yep, March 31st, 2025, the Nintendo Switch has sold over about 152.12 million units sold worldwide, with software basically being at 1,391.23 million units. So, I mean, not bad for the Switch 1 and everything like that. I mean, that was, very impressive and all. In terms of the top selling games, basically we have, there we go. Basically we have Mario Kart 8 Deluxe selling only 68.20 million units. Animal Crossing New Horizons selling 47.82 million units. Super Smash Bros. Ultimate selling 36.24 million units. The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild selling 32.81 million units. I'm curious to see how this will be once basically we factor in the Switch 2 edition, whether it's buying the Switch 2 Switch 2 game cart, or basically anybody paying for that $10 upgrade or something. So that's going to be interesting as well. Same with Tears of the Kingdom too. That one's getting also an upgrade for the Switch. For Switch 2. Anyway, continuing on, Super Mario Odyssey at 29.28 million units. I've heard that one might get a Switch 2 upgrade. Pokemon Scarlet and Pokemon Violet, 26.79 million units. Again, that one I've also heard about possibly getting a Switch 2 upgrade. Pokemon Sword and Pokemon Shield at 26.72 million units. The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom at 21.73 million units. Super Mario Party at 21.16 million units. And New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe at 18.25 million units though. I've heard that one might get a Switch 2 upgrade as well. In terms of other games that they pointed out, they said that basically they pointed out that Super Mario Party Jamboree getting at 7.48 million units though. Again, we know there's a Switch 2 version coming out for that one. The Legend of Zelda Echo of Wisdom at 4.9 million units. Paper Mario, the Thousand Year Door remake at 2.10 million. The article from Nintendo Life points out they were highlighted as particular successors for fiscal year 2025. So, I mean, not bad at all, though. That certainly is good that they're considering Paper Mario Thousand Year Door remake as a success. Hopefully that sends a signal that perhaps maybe the next Paper Mario game, maybe, you know, tone down the gimmicky stuff maybe a bit, though. Don't go overboard with it to a certain extent and everything like that. They are still hoping to sell 4.5 million original Switches in the coming fiscal year, though. It remains to be seen if they will do that, though. But for the Switch 2, they are forecasting Switch 2 to sell 15 million units by the end of 2025 and 2026 fiscal year. The company is also expected to triple that number of software sales, 45 million, excluding bundle software sales as Mario Kart World Bundle launching along the base model on June 5th. So certainly they are looking at forecasting what they expect the Nintendo Switch what they expect the Nintendo Switch 2 to sell. And while that is certainly impressive, though, they also pointed out the issue regarding the U.S. tariffs rate and everything like that. And that, I think, to some extent, could throw a wrench at the situation for the Switch 2 when it launches, though. We don't officially know that, but it is not out of the realm of possibility. And they do mention this in their financial report, though. And it says, quote, "For the purpose of our financial forecast for the next fiscal year, U.S. tariff rates effective on April 10th, 2025, U.S. Eastern Standard Time, are maintained throughout the fiscal year. Change to tariff rates may affect our financial forecast. We will continue to monitor the situation to respond to the change in the market conditions." So, again, tariffs can throw a wrench at a lot of things, and it is possible, though I don't know 100% for certain if this will happen, but it's not out of the realm possibility that the tariffs could create a situation where the Switch costing like $450, the price could go up, maybe up to $500, maybe more. So it's certainly by no means out of the realm of possibilities and all. So, I mean, very interesting report. Indeed, though, it does seem that it's expected to see basically the Switch 2 selling 15 million units. I mean, that is going to be very interesting if they could pull that off. But again, Nintendo is known to be sort of conservative with their forecast estimates, so it's certainly not out of the realm of possibility. But like I said, the tariffs can throw a wrench at this. So we'll have to wait and see how this all plays out. But overall, very impressive numbers for the Switch 1. Not sure Nintendo's going to be able to shift. I'm not sure Nintendo is going to be able to shift any more Switch 1 units with the Switch 2 coming out. I mean, it's possible, but I'm not 100% sure. And while these are certainly good numbers in terms of for the Switch 2, in terms of them believing they could sell 15 million units, again, tariffs are a factor, and that could easily throw a wrench at a lot of things and could have a negative impact on the Switch 2. Obviously, we'll have to wait and see, but that certainly is a case. And while I understand there are those who opted to wait to pick up a Switch 2, either they don't have the money right now or they want to wait for the holidays, while there is nothing wrong with that in any shape and any form, due to the economic uncertainty along with the tariffs, it is possible that we could see a scenario where the price for the Switch 2 and even this Mario Kart World Bundle, the price of that could easily go up. Obviously, Nintendo avoided that situation for now when the pre-orders happened on April 24th. But like I said before, that could very much change very, very easily. So in some ways, if you're taking that approach, you are kind of taking a gamble to a certain degree. But again, this is all, to my view, this is kind of speculation, and we'll have to wait and see how everything plays out and all. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll get to our fourth and final part, and this one has to do with someone actually doing a teardown of the inside of the Nintendo Switch 2. So we'll take a quick break and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with our fourth and final part of our My 2 Cent video. And for this one, we're going to be taking a look at what apparently is a Switch 2 teardown. Now, before the Nintendo Switch 2 was revealed, there were a lot of rumors going around of what was inside, what was going to be in the system and all. There were some claims that the system was going to be as powerful as close to a PS5. Others were saying between like a PS4 Pro or Xbox Series S. To some people, what was going to be powering the chip, and many were pointing to the T239 chip from NVIDIA and all. So there were a lot of speculations, and when the system was officially, when Nintendo started talking about the reveal, NVIDIA sort of chimed in as well and started giving out their stuff, and they basically confirmed a lot of things, including DLSS, which was long rumored to be in the Switch 2, which we now know does exist, although there's been some debate what form of DLSS is being used. Some are speculating it could be DLSS 3.0. Others are pointing towards this being a customized version in collaboration between Nintendo and NVIDIA. And we know CD Projekt Red has come out saying that that DLSS is used on the Switch 2 version of Cyberpunk 2077, and that is a version of DLSS, although they haven't exactly confirmed what that version is. Excuse me. Well, recently, a Chinese YouTuber recently posted a video that basically indicates, or at least the claim is, to have the motherboard for the Switch 2, and basically did some inside looks into it. And some of the stuff that, at least if what this YouTuber is saying is true, does seem to confirm a lot of stuff that I think that were considered rumored and everything like that. In a article from Notebook, it reads about this YouTuber. It basically is a well-known semiconductor teardown expert, has now shown us what powers the Nintendo Switch 2. They have a detailed die shot that shows us what makes it the Tegra 239 chip tick. It has a die area of 207 mm2, making it nearly twice as large as the NVIDIA chip found in the original Nintendo Switch. And contrary to earlier reports, it does not feature a tri-cluster CPU with a primal Cortex X1 core. Instead, it has an 8 Cortex 878C core working in tandem with each other. Their max clock speed is unknown at this point. For the GTBU, it uses an NVIDIA Ampere SKU with 1,536 CUDA cores spread across 6 TPC. It is manufactured on Samsung's 8N nodes, the same one used to make Ampere CPU. This effectively debunks earlier claims of the Switch 2's 239 being a 5nm die shrunk version. This person also tore down the Switch 2 motherboard to reveal its important bits. For starters, it features two 6GB LPDDR5X 8533 model from the SK HYNIX, running at a reduced clock rate. Its other components include a 256GB SK HYNIX UFC 3.1 model, Wi-Fi currency from MediaTek and Realtek audio clip. Given the Switch 2 is not out yet, it's hard to tell how it performs in the real world. This person tried to emulate it by underclocking a G4 RTX 2050 laptop CPU. I found that the results line up with performance numbers observed earlier. For example, Cyberpunk 2077 ran at 40-ish FPS with DLSS performance mode. And in synthetic benchmark, the Nintendo Switch GPU performs on par with the GeForce GTX 750 Ti from yesteryears. On the CPU, it trades blows with a 6th gen old Apple A12. Of course, the test has been performed on an entirely different piece of hardware and not on the actual Switch 2. So, assuming this is sort of correct and everything like that, it is kind of interesting to see some of this information in terms of the inside of the components and the system and everything like that. But in terms of what the power of where it stands, at least in terms of the other consoles out there, my Nintendo kind of chimed in themselves, and this is their takeaway from it is basically saying, quote, it seems that Nintendo's upcoming platform is slightly more powerful than the base PS4 console, but it's not on the same level as the Xbox Series X. Digital Foundry received a lot of backlash regarding their comments that the Nintendo Switch 2 is similar to the PS4, which launched in 2013, but it should be pointed out that this is a handheld console. So if that's true, then that is very impressive that it is basically slightly more powerful than a PS4. I was hoping maybe close to maybe like a PS4 Pro and all, but still not bad. And it is worth pointing out it's also using modern components and DLSS. So there's other things, put in there as well. And it's worth pointing out that Nintendo has had a history of, having their systems maybe not be as strong as their competitors, but some things here and there. Like, for example, I believe I remember hearing how the Nintendo Wii was, not as powerful as the 360 and the PS3. However, it was supposedly more powerful than, the GameCube, the PS2, or the original Xbox in a way. So definitely more powerful than those systems, but obviously not as powerful to the 360 and the PS3 back in the day and all. So it is still going to be interesting. I think we still need to hear more information. But assuming what this person's saying is true, this is still very impressive, nevertheless. And we've seen several graphically demanding games make their way to the Switch 1 before, obviously with some compromises, but still impressive, nevertheless. And it'll be very interesting to see what games make their way over to the Switch 2 going forward and all. So overall, very interesting teardown to be exact. Obviously, we'll have to wait and see if what this person's saying is true or not, though. But still, if what they're saying is true, it's still very impressive to see what's inside the Switch 2 and all. Okay, this concludes this My 2 Cent video for this week. And again, these are my opinion. What are yours? What are your thoughts about Gears of War Reloaded? Are you happy that they're doing what apparently is a remake or remaster of the first game and all? Were you kind of surprised to see it's going to also appear on the PS5? Or are you not really surprised at all at that anyway? What are your thoughts about this Nintendo lawsuit against this Genki accessories? Do you think Nintendo is in the right to sue this company and all? Or do you think that they are in the wrong? Well, what do you think? What is your thought on Nintendo's financial report? Do you think this is a good financial report and all? Do you think the Switch 1 will catch up to the the PS4, or do you think it's unlikely that's going to happen, or the PS2 in any way? Do you think, based on the report that they mentioned, do you think tariffs could throw a wrench at basically what the forecast estimate that Nintendo has for the for the Switch 2, in which they're aiming for probably around 15 million units sold? And what are your thoughts about this Switch 2 teardown? Do you think this Switch 2 teardown is accurate? And if it is, are you impressed with what's inside the system? Do you think there's certain things Nintendo and Nvidia could have done, differently and all? Do you agree with what I said in this video? Do you disagree? Do you have a difference of opinion? As always, sound off in the comment section below. Let me know what you think. And if you do like this video, I hope you hit the like button. I would appreciate it. And I hope you do subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you do, make sure you hit the bell icon for notifications of any new videos I put up. Also, feel free to share this video if you want to, and feel free to donate to my channel if you like. You could do it through PayPal me, Patreon, or Steam Labs. Links will be in the description of this video, assuming you watch this either on YouTube or Patreon. And I will see you again next time when I do another video. Hopefully that'll be soon. Until then, from Southern California, I wish you all a good day then. Bye.